Jeffrey Epstein's accomplice appealing her sex trafficking conviction in a New York courtroom. Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison for recruiting underage girls for Jeffrey Epstein, who died by suicide in a Manhattan jail while he was awaiting his own trial. Well, yesterday, Maxwell's attorneys argued their client was a scapegoat to satisfy public outrage. One of those attorneys appearing on NewsNation's Cuomo last month.
Let's just say, and I'm not saying this, she's 100% factually guilty. But in this country, even if you become public enemy number one, you're supposed to get a fair trial. She was convicted by a judge and a prosecutor's office that was so focused on, well, we messed up with Epstein because he's gone now, but we got to get someone else.
All right, joining me now, legal analyst and trial attorney Misty Marris. Misty, thank you for weighing in on this. So Maxwell wants her conviction overturned. Her lawyers say a plea agreement between Epstein and Florida authorities meant none of his co-conspirators could ever be prosecuted. Is this a legitimate argument?
It's certainly an argument that does need to be raised on appeal, but it's also an argument that was raised at the beginning of her trial and was previously adjudicated. So here's the appellate issue. And by the way, this is the issue the appellate judges were very, very focused on yesterday during oral argument. She's saying that she's wrapped up in this non-prosecution agreement that Jeffrey Epstein, basically what was couched as a sweetheart deal back in 2008. Now, that agreement says Jeffrey Epstein will not be prosecuted, nor will his co-conspirators. That agreement was executed in Florida. So Ghislaine Maxwell's lawyers are arguing she should be wrapped up and get the benefit of that agreement, identified as a co-conspirator, and that it should be binding in New York. So the judges were very, very intense about this issue, saying that they had reviewed Department of Justice memorandums and guidelines and found no evidence to support that argument. And she was not specifically named in the agreement while others were. So I detected a lot of skepticism from those justices. But the argument's twofold. One is she should never be prosecuted. She can't be. The other is that the court failed to actually do an analysis about that agreement, and so the verdict should be overturned and that she should get a new trial where that analysis is done.
All right, so Misty, let's look at this from the other side. You know, prosecutors are just saying, hey, Maxwell's entire argument is meritless. We know she's already been convicted. I know this is a bit of speculation, but do you think the prosecutors are even concerned at this point?
I don't think the non-prosecution agreement is going to rule the day here. And a lot of what we heard from the judges yesterday made me lean in that direction. There's other arguments, though, because even though the oral argument was focused on that one issue, other arguments were raised. One, that she was a proxy for Jeffrey Epstein. Another, that there were legal errors about evidence that was allowed into the courtroom. Statute of limitations issues were raised. The defense says statute of limitations was 5 years. Prosecution says it was extended beyond that. We're talking about allegations from the 90s and 2000s. The issue that is the most prevalent in this appeal is a tainted juror issue. Juror number 50 came out after the trial was concluded and said that they were a victim of sexual abuse. Now, that was not disclosed during the jury selection process. So much of the appellate argument is based on this could be a tainted juror. And if there's a tainted juror, the verdict needs to be overturned and she gets a new trial. It's a very high bar, though, Nicole, to get a new trial. So they're making all the right arguments, but will the verdict get overturned? Only time will tell.
Only time will tell. Well, speaking of that, I mean, the court is not expected to rule on this immediately, but when do you think that could happen?
I'm a practicing New York lawyer, so I know it takes a long time for the appellate court to come down with the decision. It could be months. They don't have a definitive time frame in which they are obligated to make a determination. So this is a complicated case. They're certainly going to be reviewing all of the arguments. You know, there's a lot of overlap because of Jeffrey Epstein, this non-prosecution agreement that was highly criticized. I do think, you know, we're going to get clarity, but it's probably not going to be for a while, probably a few months.
Probably not anytime soon. Misty, and the biggest thing here, I think, why so many people perk up, you know, at the mention of her name, there's a lot of speculation on if Maxwell will at any point potentially turn on some of the other famous people tied to this situation, including, you know, right off the bat, Prince Andrew. Could that happen?
Yeah, I think she's waiting for her appellate process to play out before she says anything. But Nicole, I've been perplexed by this case from the beginning. How have others who were involved in this widespread sex trafficking operation in any capacity not been prosecuted? How do we still not know and have that information despite, pages and pages, thousands of pages of documents that were recently released? So to the extent that she's not successful on her appeal, will that be something that she brings to the government in exchange for some form of leniency on sentence? We'll have to see. As of now, she's said she's maintained innocence, and she's not spoken.
All right. Yeah, we will certainly see what happens. Legal analyst Misty Marris, thank you.
Thank you.